Hi everyone, and welcome once again to Justice for All. I'm your host, Casey Price. From the elder law firm of Price & Price in Haddonfield, New Jersey, we are the elder law firm that focuses our practice on people touched by Alzheimer's disease and other types of dementia. And remember, this is Justice for All, the show where we shine a spotlight on some of South Jersey's amazing attorneys. And I happen to have one of those attorneys here with me today. I am so happy to have my friend Lee Perlman here joining me. Lee's going to talk about the area of bankruptcy. And Lee, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Carl. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. And you're the only person who uses my real name, let me tell you. So it's pretty funny. Lee, there are people here. I've had so many attorneys on this show, and I find this question fascinating. And it's always the first question we start with. Some people were kind of born to be an attorney. They were told their whole life, Lee, I'll bet you're going to be an attorney. And others, nobody ever said that to them before, and they just kind of fell into the practice of law. Tell us, what is it that got you into being an attorney? How did it turn out that you got here? And what is it that drove you into the field of bankruptcy?
Well, I've always been interested in helping other people. I started my practice in a unique way on my own in 1994, and bankruptcy just became a natural practice area for me, helping people out. One of the things that I really enjoy about bankruptcy, unlike other areas of the law, is that you get an immediate result for your client. I have clients that have wage garnishments, clients that have sheriff sales pending, and they can come in, they can see me, we can get the paperwork completed, and immediately they can come back and they can feel so satisfied. My wage garnishment stopped, creditors have stopped calling, they can have an uninterrupted dinner. It's a very powerful tool, and clients give me feedback and they're delighted. If you have sometimes you have in another area of the law, you have a divorce, you have a personal injury case, and these cases take a long time to resolve. With bankruptcy, it's a very powerful federal mechanism that allows you to get immediate relief, and I like that. And it's very satisfying, both for me and for the client.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, in the family law and the personal injury, there's pain all throughout the process, and maybe there'll be some relief at the end. With what you do, there's immediate relief.
Absolutely.
And that is, we could stop the interview here, because anybody watching it says, I need Lee. He can help me, and they've heard it already. They know you could be the guy in the office to protect them from those things that are kind of haunting them right now.
People are haunted by financial distress, and it's unfortunately in our country it's systemic in so many different ways, and people get to come see a bankruptcy lawyer through many different areas and many different ways. But once they get to come see me, and once they're comfortable and they can sit down, typically the client feels at ease, and my job is to make them understand the process and make them feel that they're going to get a result, and they're going to get breathing room and a fresh start.
What are some of the reasons why they're going to pick up the phone and call you? What are some of the issues that drive them in the door?
Typically, people come to see me for three main reasons, and the studies bear this out. They come to see me because there's medical debt, there's a loss of a job, or there's a substantial financial interruption. Divorce as an example. And once they come and see me, and once we sit down and can kind of weed through those areas, they're in a situation where we can get them a powerful resource, a powerful tool to get them relief from creditors contacting them.
Yeah, a lot of life can throw some curveballs, and you're able to help them kind of pick themselves up from those things that pop up, aren't you?
I mean, you asked before what got me into this area of the law, and I fundamentally believe that, particularly in our society and in the United States, everybody's entitled to a second chance. So many different people have, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you work for a company, whether you've changed jobs, so many people have a second chance, and so many people have a second act, if you will. And bankruptcy allows you to have that. So you have some breathing room, you have a fresh start, you can begin to get a financial fresh start, and that's what bankruptcy does. Everybody is entitled to be able to get that new start. And quite frankly, it goes back to the Bible, that everybody is entitled to every 7 years that you should be relieved of your debts.
Yes.
So that's the origins of the 7-year rule with respect to being discharged from your obligations.
That's really interesting. Now, part of the stigma, though, and there is a stigma sometimes to picking up the phone and talking to you, is the idea that only irresponsible people call you and file for bankruptcy. Could you talk about that a little bit?
You know, most of the people who come to see me have done almost everything under the sun so that they don't have to see me. They've talked to their relatives. They've used their savings. They've really exercised all other options before they come to see me. I always tell people nobody wants to pick up the phone and see me. So there's a misnomer, or there's a misunderstanding that people rush to come and see me and file bankruptcy, but it's really quite the opposite. They try and do everything in their power so that they don't have to file bankruptcy. And once they finally come and see me, there is shame in connection with sitting down, but once we can explain to them that they will get a fresh start, that bankruptcy is typical, and when they understand all the famous people who have filed bankruptcy, both business people and people in the entertainment industry, and we can explain that to them, they understand, well, hey, maybe I'm not alone, and maybe there are other people who have done this as well, and maybe I am entitled to some breathing room and a fresh start. Maybe I want to have dinner where I'm not going to be interrupted by a debt collector.
Right. Wow. Well, you know, it's funny. In doing what I do, people are often confronted with the idea or the concept of, why didn't I do this sooner? And I bet you hear that a lot from people who talk to you.
I do. I hear people come and see me and they say, I don't know why I didn't want to do this. So, well, we know, because psychologically it's so hard to be able to come to terms with filing bankruptcy, sitting down with a lawyer, but really getting information and understanding what the bankruptcy process looks like, and understanding that you're not going to lose your house. You're not going to lose your car. Most people come in and think they're going to lose assets. 95% of the people are able to hold on to their car in a Chapter 7, hold on to their home, continue to make payments on their house, in most cases, provided there's not too much equity in their house or their car, and keep most of their personal assets. Those are called exemptions. Mm-hmm. So for the typical Chapter 7 filer, where you file a bankruptcy and discharge your debts, most of the property you get to keep and retain. And people don't understand that, because there is a lot of misinformation about bankruptcy.
Yeah. Well, now, what happens if somebody files for bankruptcy? I'm assuming that might have an impact on their credit, or how does that work?
There is a bankruptcy will be on your credit report, but today, you know, in 2019. Most of the time, really everything is about your credit score. The Federal Reserve just did a study. I would say after your case is concluded and your case is discharged, 6 months from discharge, your credit score will see 100 to 150 point increase post-discharge. So actually, in most cases, your credit is going to improve. And it's going to improve historically as it relates to your credit score, and it's also going to improve because you don't have all that burden with respect to the credit saddling you. So you're in a position where you're debt-free. Right. So those are two wonderful benefits, and you can begin to rebuild from that point. And most of my clients are delighted. And they're very careful about their credit post-discharge because they understand what they've been through and that journey.
Yes, and it is a difficult journey, but fortunately, if they pick up the phone, they have a guide here in what you do and how you help them through this process. We hear a lot of bankruptcy and how it interplays with businesses and consumers. Can you give a little bit of an idea of how that works when we're talking about bankruptcy as it relates to that?
Yeah, we represent both businesses and consumers. Some of what we do, I like to say that we help people financially restructure, both individually on the consumer side and businesses. A business might be impacted because they have a problem with their credit line. They have a personal guarantee with their lease. They need to go ahead and get their business debts, whether they're tax debts or other obligations with vendors, restructured. So we help with that. But on the consumer side too, sometimes bankruptcy is not an option because there may be too many assets, or they may have previously filed. So we can help them restructure those obligations due. By virtue of the fact that you're engaging a bankruptcy firm, that can be a very powerful tool when you deal with creditors, because they know sometimes if we're going to be involved in a what I call a financial restructuring, the next step is bankruptcy. And many times people will then come to the table and negotiate on the creditor side.
Wow. So there is power in just picking up the phone and having that bankruptcy firm on their side, guiding them and helping them through the process. Even if they don't end up filing bankruptcy, there are many benefits that might be out there.
There are benefits that are out there. My team, and we have 2 lawyers on my team, we are used to negotiating. That's part and parcel of what we do. So we negotiate with creditors regularly, and sometimes picking up the phone and making a deal, explaining to them the next step might be bankruptcy. In some cases, bankruptcy is not always an option, so it's available, and financial restructuring can also be a powerful tool when bankruptcy is not appropriate.
Wow, Lee, this is amazing information. It is so important for the viewers here of Justice for All, because you're teaching them just how they can get that fresh start, which is so important. And I know we have a lot more we're going to talk about, but before we get there, we're going to take a quick break, okay? Don't go anywhere. I mean, I'm finding this fascinating. I'm learning a lot. I know you are too. So we'll be right back with more with Lee Perlman from the law offices of Lee Perlman right after this.
TV is a platform for people of any industry to share their story. Over 285,000 viewers are tuning in to RVN TV shows monthly. We guarantee a great experience that you'll be sharing with everyone you know while increasing your personal and company's brand awareness. But what is your brand? According to Forbes, it's a combination of your logo, your product, your design and feel, and your personality. Did you know that aside from being a guest, we offer even more opportunity to boost your brand? Adding your company logo and website on screen during your interview will allow viewers to recognize your brand instantly. Incorporating images and video clips is another great way to showcase your product during your live segment. Let viewers see how good you really are. And most importantly, there's you and your interview. For less than the cost of a newspaper, direct mail, or a magazine ad, you can leave our studio and within 48 hours have a permanent digital copy of your live segment to link to your social media, embed into your company website, or use in email marketing. Investing in your brand is so very important, and we can't wait to have you as a guest.
Justice for All. I'm here with my guest Lee Perlman from Lee Perlman and Associates. And Lee, before we went on break, I mean, you talked about a lot of ways in which what a bankruptcy attorney can do can really help somebody struggling with so many issues. But one of the things I know that people wonder and ask about a lot is whether if someone is married, do both my goodness, I can't think of the word, spouses have to join in the bankruptcy action?
Typically most people think that if you're married, it's a requirement that both spouses file. And that's not true. Really? You can file individually without your spouse if the debts may be exclusive to you. Now, your partner or your spouse's income is necessary to be included in the calculation with respect to whether you're going to file Chapter 7 or 13. Mm-hmm. And their expenses are also allocated. That's called the marital deduction. But you can file without your spouse. Their income is relevant in terms of whether you file Chapter 7 or Chapter 13, but it's not required that you file jointly.
Wow. Isn't that something? See?
It's incredible. It really is. Yeah, you definitely have options there that people don't know about.
Yes, no, you really do. Now, one thing that's been in the news lately over the last number of years is foreclosure. I mean, we see that all the time. What can be done, or what should people think about if they receive a foreclosure notice?
It's not the end of the world. I mean, you're right. New Jersey has the highest foreclosure rate in the nation, and people are impacted by foreclosure for many different reasons. They tried to get a loan modification where they were trying to get their payments adjusted. But the good news is that there's a lot of notice in New Jersey with what we are called a notice state, a foreclosure notice state, judicial foreclosure notice state. So if you receive a notice, you want to get to an attorney right away. You want to have them analyze the foreclosure complaint, understand what your timing is, understand whether bankruptcy makes sense, whether you want to defend the foreclosure complaint, file a Chapter 13 where you would be able to reorganize and stay in the home, and in some cases pay back your mortgage arrears. But do not ignore any judicial notices from an attorney who's representing the bank. That could be very, very disadvantageous.
Yeah, people think if they ignore it, it might go away, and it's actually just the opposite.
Quite the opposite. Quite the opposite.
Compounds the problem.
Although there's a lot of notice, you're going to receive a foreclosure complaint, you're going to receive a foreclosure judgment, you're going to receive a pre-foreclosure notice. Any of those notices, you have to get them to an attorney, have them understand what your rights are. You can find out what the situation is with respect to your mortgage arrears, and there are options. There are options. You know, a loan modification is a great example where you can go to the lender, hire a firm like ours to help with a modification. A modification might include a change in interest rate, a situation where the arrears are put at the back of the loan, and in some cases what I like to call forgive and forget, which is simply a reduction in the amount of the principal balance relative to the value of the home. So if you owe more on the home than the home is worth, we're going to make a request that the amount of your mortgage balance is reduced based on the value of your home. And we've had success there. We've had success there. Yeah, I'd say 65 to 75% of our loan modifications are doing it. We have dealings with all the major lenders. So you might have an approach there again where maybe Chapter 13 isn't appropriate, and you might want to try to seek a loan modification before you file a Chapter 13. The foreclosure process may be too far along where maybe you potentially have ignored those judicial notices and we have to file, but sometimes a loan modification makes sense if you have no other debt.
Wow. So you just underscored why it's so important to jump on the process. Why didn't I do this sooner, right? We don't want clients to be thinking that when they come to see you. If they deal with the issues as soon as they come up, they can get a better. They may be able to get a better result.
You know what? It is so important to be able to look at your notice, take it to an attorney, understand what your rights are. There's so much more that my firm and my team of lawyers can help you with if you're responding to the foreclosure complaint, the wage garnishment, any credit card lawsuit, anything that you're receiving from an attorney. You want to rush, pretend that judicial paperwork is on fire.
Wow.
And get to an attorney right away.
It's funny because I was just about to talk about credit cards, because people really, while the foreclosure may trigger action, sometimes people sit back on credit cards.
People don't understand that credit card lawsuits can turn into a real albatross. You receive a credit card lawsuit, there's a process to be able to respond to that lawsuit. Sometimes it's appropriate to file an answer. Maybe you have a defense. Maybe they've miscalculated the interest rate, for example. Maybe they're suing the wrong party. Maybe they're suing in the wrong court. So there are defenses available. But understand that if the credit card company gets a judgment against you, they can then garnish your wages and levy on your bank account. In New Jersey, they have the opportunity to take 25% of your gross or 10% of your net under New Jersey law, because New Jersey is a wage garnishment state. So you have to be careful that you don't let that lawsuit turn into a judgment. And a bankruptcy can stop a wage garnishment. A bankruptcy can stop a credit card lawsuit. So in certain cases, it's important to have somebody evaluate that.
So I bet every now and then you get a phone call from a person and they say, my wages are being garnished and I don't even know why. And they probably ignored all sorts of notices along the way, and a judgment can be entered even if you don't participate, right?
It is, because you make a great point, and the point there is you want to have somebody look at it before it gets to that point, because by the time they're garnishing your wages, we may not even know who the entity is that's garnishing the wage. We may have to identify who that creditor is. Certainly the bankruptcy can stop it, but there's a lot more work that you're going to have as the attorney representing the individual who's coming to see you to be able to get that stopped. And that investigation and the extra work that's going to be required is difficult. Look, nobody wants to come and see an attorney, but getting in and getting past the psychological part of coming to sit down with an attorney is a critical component to getting help.
Right. Wow. So let's talk for a minute. If people are being harassed, they're like you said, they're eating their dinners, the phone's ringing off the hook. If they talk to you and move forward with bankruptcy, will that stop?
If someone comes to see me and they're presently being harassed by a debt collector, they can't have an uninterrupted meal with their family. I mean, they're taking their kids to activities. I have clients that are taking their kids to activities, and on their Bluetooth speaker, debt collectors are on the phone while the kids are in the back, and the kids don't understand the nature of those calls. I can get those calls stopped immediately. And if they continue to call after the bankruptcy's filed, we can sue that debt collector, and they may be liable for damages.
Wow. All right. So there are many remedies that people may not realize exist that if they talk to you, they can learn about, and it's
Absolutely.
It's worth picking up the phone. Well, let's talk about taxes for a minute, because that can sometimes get people into a little bit of trouble where they're delinquent on their taxes. They have back taxes that haven't been paid. Is bankruptcy able to help with that?
Bankruptcy is able to help with both delinquent personal income taxes and real estate taxes. With respect to income taxes, the general rule is that if your taxes have been filed timely, you haven't sought an extension, and those taxes have more than 3 years old, calendar years old, in many cases, those taxes can be discharged in bankruptcy. People don't understand that.
Wow.
So taxes are dischargeable, meaning you can get rid of them legally, justifiably in a bankruptcy. And with real estate taxes, if you've fallen behind on real estate taxes, you have to be careful that those taxes won't get sold at a tax sale, and then it becomes a lien on the property. A bankruptcy can stop a tax sale from occurring, and you can pay back some of that through a Chapter 13. Keep your property, get peace of mind, stay in your property, hold on to the deed to your property, and reorganize under a Chapter 13.
But if the tax sale's already happened, it may be too late, because that lien will...
In some cases, depending on the ownership and the tax sale, yes, how long it's progressed.
Oh my.
You want to be careful. Again, you want to get in to see somebody before they're filing that complaint.
That's the common theme here to the second part of the program, which is if something's happening, if you get that notice, if you get that letter, if you get something from the court, get in there and see the attorney.
Yes, correct. I mean, in the credit card context, I mean, no one is just suing you right away. Typically, there's going to be a collection agency that's involved. Call us when you receive the collection agency notice. We may even be able to make some kind of a deal then. But once it gets to the attorney stage, you have to call. You
Absolutely.
have to call.
Well, all right, so Lee, we've talked now for the last half hour about calling. I think there's people out there who are watching this program who are going to want to pick up the phone and give you a call. Could you let everybody know, how do they get in touch with you and your team?
So my phone number is 856-751-4224. We're also available at NewJerseyBankruptcy.com. NewJerseyBankruptcy.com. Our team is available to assist you. Take your call. You can schedule a no-cost consultation, and we have payment plans that are available.
Lee, I know how busy you are. I know there's people out there calling you all day, every day. I really appreciate the fact that you took time out of your day to come here to Justice for All and share what you do with everyone.
I appreciate the opportunity to come today and speak to your audience.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for taking time out of your day to watch this conversation with Lee Perlman. I know I learned a lot. I'm sure you did too. I really appreciate you tuning in. Remember, we're here, Justice for All, every Tuesday, 1 o'clock here on RVN TV. I'm your host, Casey Price, and until I have the privilege of talking to you again, I wish you nothing but the best.